This is going to be a candid video of all of the 450 shootouts. We're going to go through it together. Since all the magazines have them out yet, I'm looking to buy a 450, you know, a big bike, because I'm a whopping 195 pounds, 5'9". Actually, there's an asterisk there. I'm actually 150, right? You know, but it's not the size of the dog in the fight, right? Yeah, anyway, I am digressing already. I was ironically invited to go to one of these shootouts for one of the magazines. I won't name them, you know, and then just kind of got radio silent. So didn't get to attend, just kind of a bummer. However, we're still going to go over all of it. These guys did an amazing job between Swamp Moto, Dirt Bike, Motocross Action, and Vital. And they all somewhat had different views on stuff, which means you can't really go wrong besides the one I'm showing on screen right now, Suzuki. Why even review this sucker? Because it's a POS, right? But it's cheap. And it comes with a new 50th anniversary, new graphics. Woohoo. Thank you. And I'm kind of upset that there's no Stark in here. I want to see the Stark against these and see what the test riders think about the Stark. And yeah, none of these guys had the 450 Triumph as well, which is also like, maybe should we just wait till you get all the darn bikes before you start reviewing them? I don't know. Maybe. But we know that I'm a hardcore conservative. However, I do like the ideology of the electric bikes. Besides the annoying lack of noise, I like the fact that you can ride it hard and put it away wet and not have to worry about, oh, I got to adjust the cams. Oh, I need to put a new piston in it. Oh, the pipe. Oh, I crashed. The pipe is bent. Ironically, just bent my buddy's bike, and that sucker was $900 from when he bought it in 2017, and it was only $600 back then. Darn inflation, am I right? But let's start off. I honestly had the most fun looking at the Motocross Action video.
This bike,
here.
Although he does make it look
and yeah, a lot of the guys ended up doing the Suzuki, but
track. We do know that most of our viewers on our YouTube channel probably don't have the same skills of Ken Roxon. Unfortunately, this bike has not been changed since 2018.
Oh my goodness, man. 2018. I would have honestly said 2004, but okay. Anyway, we don't really need to go over that bike because it's not going to be a winner whatsoever. What did these guys have to say about
Shootout? We had a long
Kawi
list of updates that we wanted Kawasaki to make to this model for 2025, but they only made 3 very, very minute changes. They updated the air filter, which we were thankful for that. Last year's flat piece of toast was a no-go, but now the new air filter still is pretty cramped inside that air box.
I know. How are you going to get any horsepower to breathe in these suckers? These things, just like what he said, cramped.
Not allowing a lot of air to go in there. It's a copy of the Twin Air Power Flow kit that we installed on last year's model, so we appreciate the new dome filter. Our airflow in this. Last year we put a Pro Circuit exhaust system on, Vortex ECU, did a lot of things to wake up this bike. If you want a Japanese 350, the Kawasaki KX450 is a good place to go. Such a smooth and mellow engine. Unfortunately,
ouch, ouch. Mosman, he's a fabulous rider, so I trust what he says. He's a little bit taller too, so I'm assuming his frame is probably that 180-ish or so. But saying that this motorcycle is basically the 350 is a major shot to everybody that's going on to Kawi. Prado, I hope you can make the sucker breathe more than what the Japanese manufacturer stock stuff does. Let me go over here because we might as well look at some of the Kawi stuff from Dirt Rider. All these magazines did a different perspective on this, which I really enjoyed the difference between all 4 of them.
A disadvantage compared to its older self in the stability department. Still very good, although the motor vibrates excessively and that affects overall comfort. Here's how it stacks up in each category.
Power, electronics for suspension, rear suspension. I like how they went to both rear and front suspension, and then also cornering and stability. Those are some pretty good scores here. Comfort 3, interesting. Components and details, got it. Right, so they don't really say a whole lot of good things about the Kawi either. Those are pretty good things from Dirt Rider. All right, and then here's Vital.
Due to other bikes improvements. And there's a big range on the scores this year. This bike finished 2, 5, 4, 6, 4 with our test riders for 21 total.
And basically that's what the riders do. They're giving it kind of moto scoring. So if this is your favorite bike, you're going to give it a 1. Basically, that's how they get that
points.
scoring.
Let's get right into it. What makes the KX450 good? The chassis. Almost every rider compliments how much comfort there is in this bike. Not only the chassis, but the suspension itself. This is a very comfortable motorcycle. It feels like it's a bike that is very easy to get your maximum out of. That also plays into the power character, which is extremely linear and drawn out. Very long feeling, but very soft. It is the bike that most riders complimented in the test that they could get to 100% throttle open.
So you're not going to get arm pump in it, basically, because it is a old dog per se. All right, back to Mosman. Who is their next motorcycle up here that they have?
MC450F, while it is true, this is basically a downgraded red version of the KTM. You are still getting the KTM engine, you are still getting the chromoly steel frame, swing arm, and the suspension components, but you are missing out on quite of the KTM upgrades, and you're not getting the price difference that you used to get when you bought a gas. This thing is now just as expensive as the Kawasaki KX450, and it's more expensive than Yamaha and Honda. Fortunately,
oh, yuck. That's hard to swallow, especially with like no factory bars and wheels that are soft as F, right? Soft as fuck, that if you're going to overjump something, those things are going to wallow out. Might as well save up for Easter because you're going to be picking those suckers up all the freaking time. All right, so they basically gave the gas. If you just like a red one, go buy a KTM and put red plastic on it. Vital gave it
546 amongst our test riders for 27 points. This came as a little bit of a shock to us because amongst the Austrian trio, the gas is the most different in its own certain way between hard parts, components, suspension settings, etc. And in years past, we've had test riders that didn't like it and test riders that really liked it. However, this year it fell way more into the category of the struggle bus. In years past, something that's been unique about this bike when the Austrian trios were on stiffer chassis, the gas was the only one of the three that had a European suspension setting. The KTM and Husqvarna have US developed specs for us in the US market. The gas uses a worldwide spec. The bike we test here is the same one available worldwide.
That's kind of interesting. I've always really liked the Husky suspension as a previous owner of like 4 freaking Huskies. The Huskies to me always seem like, hey, if the Austrian company wanted to do some R&D, they might first put it on the Husky, see how it is. It's kind of like beta, and then if it's good, it'll be solid on the KTM. If it's bad, it's just going to throw off, and then whatever KTM's old tech, it gets thrown to gas. But we know that the parent company of KTM has been having hard financial issues, as much as the head honcho saying that they need less races to go to because they're spending millions of dollars to go to all these super motocross races. So they've been cutting funding a bunch, as to why we see the over in Europe gas kind of being misplaced, and then also here in America with the Troy Lee design stuff. So that doesn't surprise me as much that this bike, that is definitely not a buy for sure for me. So what is Mosman saying for his 4th place? Yeah, I really like their editing and how this works in the garage. It looks sick.
Coming in 4th place, that's right, it's the Husqvarna FC450. Now this bike is a great bike. In 2021, when it was first introduced to have that lowered suspension platform, all of our riders loved it. Pros, intermediates, tall guys, short guys, vets, everybody in between loved the Husqvarna platform. Then in 2023, when the new chassis came out with the frame, swing arm, engine, all the updates that came in 23, our pros and our faster riders really appreciated the extra suspension that came on KTM and gas, and they were missing that when they hopped on the Husqvarna model. So this was a difficult one to put it in 4th place because it is a better bike than it was last year. We appreciate the updates to the chromoly steel frame, that it's much easier to break in, also much more compliant and comfortable on the track. Even though this thing is the fastest bike on the track and it has a very smooth and linear power band, we still ranked it 4th place in our shootout.
Interesting. Fastest, but most linear. So that's kind of cool because it's going to make sure that you're not going to, I would say, get massive arm pump here. What is the Husky here. What does Dirt
on this
Bike
bike, you have to
magazine.
pay extra to hook up to your smartphone. Overall, still
Pay
the
extra to
ratings
hook up
from
to
our
your
test riders
smartphone.
are very
Everyone's got
high
to do
across the
in-app
board for the
purchases, penny
Husqvarna.
pinching. Big power, yeah, that's what Mosman was saying. Power delivery, hell yeah. Go Husky. Electronic options, probably because you're not able, you have to spend more for it. And this is where Mosman was saying the suspension sounds good. Rear suspension, huh? Cornering. Okay, and then Vital. Where is Vital?
You're in soft conditions, you're going to have this bike loaded really hard between bumps. You think you've got big hill sections, a lot of sand that's going to suck the bike down, and you're just going to go stiffer. That's the point where everyone in the test was just like, well, I would buy the bike that's not lowered for most case situations. Again, that's how the Husqvarna ends up fifth. A bike that we do appreciate in its own way,
Fifth,
but
it's
in
a
its own
suspension.
unique
It's a
way.
lowered suspension.
Coming in,
If you're short, then you're going to buy the bike that's kind of meant for a lowering kit. That makes sense. I guess I'm okay with that. Ooh, KTM. Not KTM, it's Yamaha. Huh, surprising that they've got this in third
Coming in
place.
third place in our 450 shootout is the Yamaha YZ450F. Now, yes, this bike did win the last 2 years in a row, but
everybody
the
loves this
competition
bike.
has gotten better this year. We still appreciate the ultra strong engine. 59 horses are inside of that engine, and they go all the power to that rear wheel. If you've never gotten a whole shot before, you need to
What is up with this front fender number
buy
plate?
a Yamaha
Front
YZ450.
number
Our
plate.
pro riders love harnessing the power inside this.
It just looks ugly. And then everyone has got the KTM new, I don't know, side skirts or side panels, which I'm not a huge fan of. They look cool on the KTMs, but there's just lots of plastic.
Bike and getting whole shots. Yamaha is an extremely fast bike on the track, but it is a little bit twitchy. Coming into corners, and when you let off the throttle, the front end can be very nervous. We do a lot of things
Nice
to smoothen
countersteer.
out the power by adding a hydraulic clutch. That smoothens out that hit instead of the cable clutch, which comes stock. We've also added FCP race cups to kind of rake out the front end and calm that down, as well as suspension upgrades. Yamaha YZ450F also has a few durability concerns. We've seen a lot of our friends pushing their bikes off the track with Yamaha 450s, and for the twitchiness, the too strong engine, and the durability concerns, that's why this.
So too strong of engine, but then you're going to motor mod it. For 10, 11 grand, you want to have a bike that you can just go out and race and not have to go put new components in the suspension. This is where I feel everyone is shooting themselves in the foot as far as let the vet guys go do it. But I don't know. You should still be able to compete incredibly well on a stock piece of equipment.
This bike finished third.
All right. What did Vital say about the Yamaha? The Yammer Bammer.
place
They said
defending
first.
its title. The Yamaha YZ450F.
Every test rider
And this was a
loved it.
commanding win, getting first place with all 5 of our test riders. We may sound like a broken record at this point, but this is the most simple bike for each rider to dial in. Not to say it doesn't take a little bit of tweaking here and there. We noticed on the 25 edition of this bike, a lot of guys like the way the rear end worked better than last year, but the front fork took a little bit of tuning, with most riders going stiffer on the compression and slower on the rebound to get the fork a little bit more held up and a little bit less busy
That whip
in
was cool.
places. The overall balance of the bike was easy to maintain, and no matter what, if a rider wanted a balanced bike, a little bit more of a front steer, rear steer, it seemed like everybody was able to adjust the bike pretty simply.
So best of both worlds. And I haven't said anything about Swamp Moto as of right now, because the way they did stuff is they just kind of had everybody sit down and say what their best bike was.
Today, it was just clear as day. The thing is good. The bike is just good. It's my favorite power delivery. It's got more torque and more excitement down low than any of the other bikes. It's got great mid-range. It's got great top end. The suspension is plush, and the initial stroke is great.
Smooth.
So is the Kawasaki. So is the Honda. Both.
Yeah, and then what I really liked was the last guy's comment.
Get enough of that dang thing. I saved it for last, and I was the last guy on the track, and I was riding around until I looked around and I felt like I needed to get off. So that was the bike I chose
I
today.
like the one industry gear here. But no, everybody besides the man himself here
I really
said he
get along
liked
with the new
KTM.
chassis.
Everyone else said that they loved the
I'm
Yamaha.
saying that the Yamaha's a winner. You know, I mean, it's just, oh man.
Okay, so you've got 2 channels that say it's the winner. What did Dirt Bike say? Peak power 5, power delivery 3. Interesting. A little mishap there. What's more important on a bike? Is it suspension or is it power? Right, I would first say it's suspension, then it's power, then probably stability, but stability goes hand in hand with suspension and cornering. That's shocking. Every time I've ridden Yamahas, their cornering is amazing. Right, so suspension and power is it. And I believe this guy didn't even make it to their top 3 here because they had the Husky as number 3. Did they? Or is this first?
Information and scores for you to come up with your own results based on your own priorities.
I gotta look. Oh, that looked rough. All right, tell me what you saw. Because that doesn't look like a vet rider riding that sucker. They said that they geared this towards.
First place this year is the Husqvarna FC450.
Crazy. Okay, so we got 2 channels with Yamahas, and then we got one with the Husky, right? Okay, what did Motocross Action say for their favorite motorcycle? This looks like it's the...
And that's right, the 2025 KTM 450 wins.
Okay, it's got to be just because of Husky's got the peak power, but is lacking the suspension. And for a vet guy, you might like that lowered suspension. However, for a racer, you're going to want the motor package, but then also the suspension that works. So what does he say?
It says MXA's 450 Bike of the Year. We had complaints about it as it finished second the last 2 years in a row, and KTM updated those. The chromoly steel frame no longer takes 10 hours to break in. Now it breaks in much quicker, and it is much more comfortable on the track. 2022, KTM had a very comfortable and compliant frame. 2023, they went too far, too rigid, trying to find stability out of their chassis. Now, for 2025, they've come back to a happy medium between the 22 and the 23 frames, and honestly, the MXA test riders love it. Vet riders love it, pro riders love it, intermediates love it, and one thing we really appreciate about this bike is the durability. KTM, Husqvarna Gas, those are the only manufacturers who can claim that they run the stock clutch inside of their factory engines in Supercross and Motocross.
Do we believe it? Do we believe it? I mean, they might run the stock one, but they're going to change it every time they get on the bike. Okay. So, Vital, what did they say about KTM?
This bike
place.
amongst our test riders scored 3, 2, 3, 3, 3. So basically, this bike did not finish off the podium with any rider and seems to have a very solid average score that gives it 14 points overall, and it actually only missed out on second by 1 point, which we will get to. So why did the KTM land where it did? Well, compared to years past, compared to primarily last year, our test riders did enjoy it more. The updated chassis that we first saw on the factory edition bike this year, it is more soft. It is supple compared to the outgoing chassis. The outgoing one was precise and fun on a 1 or 2 lap pace, but wasn't great throughout the day and wasn't as good track to track as it could be. The new chassis is much more enjoyable throughout the day. It is better track to track. The changes you make at one track seem to carry over better.
Because it's not as stiff. You know, they're saying it's not as stiff. And that with the power here, what did, and that's probably why Donna Swamp Moto said that was his favorite bike as well. So there's, I don't know, conflicting there. Yamaha KTM is sort of what we're looking at. That I've been the most excited about, besides the new Honda e-bike, which who knows when that thing is going to be released. But the Lawrence brothers have sure made this motorcycle look exceptional.
YZ450. This wins as the most improved bike in the class. Yamaha got a little bit better. KTM got quite a bit better, but Honda, this thing got 35 or 40% better. We love this bike for 2025.
That's like a whole 125
if you liked
better.
Honda before, you'll absolutely love this bike now. If you didn't like Honda before, you'll probably appreciate this bike now as well. The sag numbers, the clicker changes, even the minor little updates that you made to the 23 and 24 bike just would throw this bike out of whack super quickly. It required a lot of work when you switch between tracks. Now for 2025, a much more consistent platform, and it's not so twitchy, and it's also not so harsh. They made the frame stiffer, but that allows the suspension to work more. Suspension still not perfect. The forks are very soft. We definitely recommend going up a spring rate or two in the forks. I also liked going up a spring rate in the shock as well. So there are some updates you can make to this bike.
Well,
the hydraulic clutch is a little inconsistent
for
for our test riders' liking, but overall, this is the best CRF450 we've seen since 2008. And we said that last year, and this thing blows last year's bike out of the water.
2008. So they're giving that sucker a second, which is fun. All right, let's see what Dirt Bike Magazine.
Like that handlebar switch? The Honda is the only bike that doesn't offer some kind of engine tuning through a smartphone app.
See, that's so silly. It's 2025. Come on. You're spending 10 plus grand, 15 grand-ish for the Works Edition with taxes, and you should have a smartphone app. It's a total miss on the social aspect as well. Could you imagine showing up to Glen Helen and saying, hey, this is what Jet Lawrence and Factory Honda think you should have for the Honda Maps? It should be a great, great addition to the platform, and that's what I believe they should go with.
Here are the Honda's ratings.
Three peak power, yeah, lackluster. Power delivery. I like how Dirt Rider did do this, though, giving it this kind of a score rather than Vital just saying, hey, this has been a low score between 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, or whatever they did. Suspension, yeah. Again, what Mosman was talking about. Stability. Cornering. Ah, that's impressive. And what did Vital say about it? Oh, they said second place with 4.
The new Honda CRF450R. It scored 4, 3, 2, 2, and 2 amongst our test riders for 13 points overall. How did the Honda make such a big jump compared to the last couple years? The bike is, again, more of a generational change or evolutionary change than a revolutionary. It's mostly just chassis, airbox, mapping. It's all it needed. This bike is so much more.
Dude, a chassis change and an airbox change, that's where the majority of the power comes from, is how they get the air into the dang motor. So for overall, basically, I'm just going to say the Yamaha wins because everyone seems to freaking love the Yamaha. It won 2 of the channels on here. What was Motocross Action? They had the KTM, right? And so in second, it would be either the Husky because Dirt Bike Mag had the Husky and Motocross Action had the KTM. So for that matter, stay away from the gas, stay away from the Kawi, and stay away from the Suzuki. And nobody has reviewed the Triumph, and if anything has to say about what they did with the 250 to the 450, it almost seems like there was more R&D on the 250, and that bike has been somewhat of an overall, more of like a nostalgic type of a motorcycle. So I would say that it probably would be right around the Kawasaki-ish there, even though Dirt Rider had Kawi as the winner. So for that reason, I don't really think that the Triumph is something that people are really going to buy unless it has to do with contingency. Contingency is a huge, huge contributor for people, at least pro riders, is you could go up to a Pro-Am, make $1,000 for winning the pro class, but then having an extra $250 to maybe $400 for contingency is huge. That would be one of the reasons why they would pick up a Triumph if they're throwing money down like that. Even as an amateur, they give a lot of like Kawasaki bucks that you can go buy at the bike shops. That it's incredibly, incredibly helpful. One thing that is missing in this list is the Stark. yes, the e-bikes, and it'll be funny once we actually have the Honda e-bike out, if that is going to be all of a sudden, everyone says that you can have an e-bike, you have an e-bike class, there it is. I'm still kind of a big fan of the whole ideology of the e-bike, but overall, sounds like it is the Yamaha that is the winner, and then it is the Austrian bikes besides the Gas, KTM or Husky, and then in that third place, gosh, would be the Honda. The Honda seems to be a decent motorcycle, which I honestly thought it might have won. But according to the overall, if I'm taking the averages of what I've seen here, it's a third place bike. But this is Johnny Hopper. Till next time, keep it WFO. Thank you, Lennox. Lennox, you like the red one or the blue one or the red one? I mean, it was the red one.
I want the red one.
The red one, not the blue one? All right, she said red one.